you doing?
Yeah, well, but there was, sound like some of the board members didn't want them after all now. So anyway,
This conference will now be recorded.
you are being recorded.
Yeah.
He's got his YouTube link. He can hear you as long as y'all use your microphone.
Right.
But we're not doing the participation. That way you don't have to read the script.
Yeah, I got you. No big deal.
I just told
Yes. I'd like to call the Board of Supervisors to order. As always, let's start with the pledge and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. We do have a quorum. We do need to adopt an agenda. Anybody have anything we need to add to the agenda? What would y'all like to do?
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the agenda as presented.
I second.
Motion's made and seconded. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And Mr. Gallo's not with us, but I understand he's watching. Public comment. Public comment, other than it being haircut week. Gentlemen. No, not enough hair. Public comment. All right, let's get going with this. Mr. Weekly, you want to start with Mooney?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah. Mooney, come on up.
Good afternoon, board. We'll go over the transfer budget first. I'm only gonna hit a few items on there because not much change, but the ones that I'm gonna hit are significant change. 2430, the contract, 10% increase, simply because of the fees that changed on us. So my suggestion to the board is that the local counties that have transfer stations, which was Culpeper County and Greene County, both have went up on their fees for tipping for commercial waste. They also went up for debris. One is that we're currently at $65 for brush. For all other trash, we're 65 ton as well. Culpeper County, let me see my notes. Let's start off with Greene. Greene County is at $70 a ton for commercial waste, and for brush is at $70 as well. Culpeper, I thought I just had it. Culpeper is at $71.50 per ton for commercial waste, and for woody debris, they're $71.50 per ton as well. So I propose to the board that we go up on our prices. It hasn't went up since I've been here, and I think that would help the cost of the overall. My suggestion is $68 or either $70 to match the local area, which is Greene County.
Where was Rappahannock, did you see?
I did not check Rappahannock.
Okay.
So the only ones I checked were transfer stations that I knew. I didn't even know Rappahannock had a transfer station. I thought they had a dump site. So I did check Orange. Orange has a dump site. So the ones we went with were Greene County and Culpeper. And they were both for transfer stations.
Yeah, that makes
So,
sense.
and I think that makes a big difference, to go with transfer stations instead of a dump site.
I think Rappahannock has a transfer, though. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I've been there.
Rappahannock transfers to Page County.
Oh, in Page?
Page County, you go to Page.
Okay.
So,
What?
I can
Yeah.
check that for you guys, though.
No.
So, I just have a suggestion that we should go up to either $68 or $70 per ton.
I would think that we'd go to 70 and just be done with it on both sides. Do commercial and on wood debris and move on. Majority of people bringing in wood debris is gonna be far less than a ton. It's normally gonna be yard scraps and stuff, so I mean, it's really not that, it's not the end of the world at all. But I understand Jonathan's coming with administrative fees, potentially next week. And then we can, no,
No,
you're not
we need
ahead.
to
No,
hear it
it's,
now,
it's
so.
worth saying for sure. That'll be included in next week's with, administrative fees. What else you got, Mooney?
Wait, do the other counties, though, also have a free month for their brush and woody debris,
I don't think they do.
which we have, so we could potentially do away with that. I
We
know that- I know
we
people
have
like
2
it.
months, so we can go to one.
What are the 2 months, Mooney?
It is, March and October.
I used it.
Yes.
I know people appreciate it, but
Yeah,
there's
so
too much.
that's for, and that's definitely just for your home, so if you have limbs, it's not for folks to run their business and bring it
Correct.
in, so it's just residential.
Clarissa, yeah.
But I do think that's a great opportunity to give back to the community of having that, so. My next one would be, the communications, the telecommunications, which is, 150% up, which that is gonna be down once we remove the landline there, and we're going to a cell phone base there. And I think that would help that tremendously. Half the time when you call it, it doesn't work correctly anyway. We're getting a lot of static from every rainstorm, which we haven't had much, but, so we're just going with a cell phone there instead of a landline. And that's about it for that budget.
Anybody have anything on the transfer station?
Just a note on the telecommunications 2,000 amount, we put that in assuming the landline is there. If we get rid of the landline, that will go down. Just want to clarify that that 2,000 includes the landline, because we weren't sure when that was
Correct.
going to happen.
And it's actually in process now, so.
All right, so y'all gonna adjust? Yes, ma'am. Yeah, give her the landline.
Mr. Chairman,
Please.
I have a comment on the land, transfer station. I was out there a couple of weeks ago, and I talked to the lady who, runs the, scales. I don't know what her name is, but I was asking her about the complaints that we had received about the untidiness of the landfill. And she relayed to me that that is usually a problem around the holidays only, when you've got so many people dumping all their holiday trash. I have the same problem with my dumpster. I mean, Santa Claus brings too much junk. But, you know, I expressed the concerns that we had. And also, when I was there, there was a representative from Updike who was on site inspecting. This was on a Saturday.
There you go.
I talked to her for a while and just told her that, you know, the public had to be satisfied with the way that they were operating the station, for what good that did. But we had a discussion, and, you know, costs are going up for everybody, and anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
No, absolutely, absolutely.
Well, thank you for doing that, appreciate it.
All right, anything else on transfer station? Let's go facilities.
All right, facilities, touching a couple bases, 2430 water and sewer. So we trying to reduce that with 23%. And the reason why we're reducing that is not really reducing it, but we're moving it to a different line item. Because when I first came here, bottled water was in that line item, and I didn't think that fit utilities. So we're moving that to separate, it kind of corresponding with, I believe his office, let's see, what is
Office supplies,
Office
2430.
supplies. Yeah, I thought it fit better with that than what it did with the utilities. Then overall, I guess our budget is basically gonna stay the same. We have some upcharges on a couple other things, but not much overall. I'm not asking for a lot this year. I know we're tight this year, and I'm trying to keep everything close to same as possible. We did have a record year of snowfall, with mean overtime and which mean more chemicals. We did have a lot of wind damage. We had a lot of storm damage this year. So we're trying to operate efficient as possible. And I thank you guys for working with us.
Jonathan?
Quick question, man. Sorry to put you on the spot. It is something we've talked about in the past. The lease uniform mats, it's more mats than it is uniforms, because y'all buy uniforms. Have you got anything back from, well, I guess we would know our costs from Cintas to lease, but have you explored purchasing these things versus?
So, yes,
Leasing.
I have. We're actually, if we purchase our stuff, we'd probably be saving close to $4,500 a year.
Let's buy.
And I'm all for that. So I'm meeting with a company, out of Richmond that sells mats, sells everything we use from Centos, but they sell it to you and you're not under a contract. They're getting a lot more schools up, Richmond area, Northern Virginia area, and they're trying to come down and correspond with us in the school system. But I've heard that the school systems are trying to stick it out with who they have, so.
So I'd say let's just buy them, because she vacuums once or twice a week, depending on the frequency in the building, but
No, didn't Dr. Timmons say last week that he had gone ahead and purchased some of these things?
I don't know for mats, he was looking at trying to go for one provider on things like fire extinguishers and all these other testing.
I think
That's kind of what we're trying to do with that as well, too.
Right.
So,
But I think let's proceed, unless the board has other thoughts, let's proceed with that purchase versus lease then.
Save
okay,
$4,500.
and, we also adding, the EMS building to this purchase list too. So, and I did, we are taking monies away for, the janitorial supplies, because EMS is now purchasing their own, so I don't have to supply them. We thought about it, it was a good thought, but it's a lot of ripping and running. 5 or 6 phone calls a week of needing more supplies, and I can't keep up with their demand. I don't have a warehouse of stuff just sitting there. So I thought it would be better if they purchased their own stuff. Any other questions?
Anybody else have anything from Mooney?
I do have one more note. The insurance renewal we have not received yet. So you see a 0 change on insurances, but that's because we haven't gotten our renewals. We expect to get the renewal within the next 2 weeks. So that's on the insurance line items that you see up on the screen now.
Anybody? Thank you, Mooney.
No problem. Thank you, guys.
Miss Barry, where is Dawn Dela Cruz?
Well, I didn't know that she was supposed to be here, so I told her she didn't have to be.
Well, that seems
So
reasonable.
that's my problem. I mean, that's my fault, not her fault. Don't hold it against her.
Let's take it as a slight.
Mr. Jackson,
Yes, ma'am, do your thing.
she did give me, if I can find the right one, some updated numbers for you, which was that for fiscal year '25. So far, we have served 223 victims, of which 148 were new victims of crime. And 8 witnesses, and 7 of which were new witnesses. So we continue to have crime in Madison
That's a bummer.
against our best efforts.
You gonna start with Commonwealth Attorney?
I think she's got the victim witness up first. It's pretty straightforward because we have not gotten any numbers from the state, and this position is primarily grant funded. We copy and pasted last year's budget into this year's budget for the county. They only allow us to do so many adjustments to the DCJS budget, and so once we get those numbers from the state, we can adjust the numbers from the county so that it matches appropriately.
Yeah, go ahead, John.
Clarissa, I'd like to ask, I did see the letter of support. We had outside agencies in here last week, and then the board at the end of this meeting are going to cover outside agency funding requests, one of which was the Foothills Child Advocacy. So I'm sure that's probably going hand in hand with their seeing increases with Ms. De La Cruz's increases. Is that fair to?
That's fair to say.
Okay.
And I don't know how much their director shared with y'all. They'd had some struggles a few years ago, and it seems like they are on a exceptionally positive track. We have an MDT meeting, a multidisciplinary meeting. It meets once a month. It meets tomorrow, for example. In the past, Foothills has almost always participated solely by video. That is not the case now. while she may participate by video, you know, every other month, she makes an effort to come and be in person, so that we can have that kind of collaboration. They've been wonderful partners, and we are incredibly thankful for the ability that we have to interview these kids once, have law enforcement, have social services present, so that they don't have to keep going through it over and over and over again. So it's really helped our cases.
You have anything else on victim witness, Clarissa?
Only that, just to caution the board, it is a grant-funded position. With everything at the federal government, we don't know the future. My hope is that if there is any movement at the federal government level, the state will recognize the incredible importance these programs play and will either develop a state office of victim services with offices in each locality, or will provide money like the comp board. It's my hope, my dream, but if they don't, I'll be here asking.
If the feds were to cut, and if this position wasn't there, what would be the protocol that y'all would use instead of what you're doing now?
I would need an additional administrative assistant position at a minimum, to help coordinate and meet with folks. The other part about this position, and that position would probably, as a result of not being its own department, would have overtime with it. You know, it's not unusual for me to get a phone call in the middle of the night and say, well, have you called Dawn? And they call Dawn, and she helps the victim right then, right there with whatever is going on in their life. And that's one of the reasons that she's not here, is that she's been in the office and we had court all day, and she was helping someone with a protective order that didn't have a pending criminal case. So even though we weren't necessarily in the courtroom, she's still in the courtroom with our victims. So yeah, I mean, it would,
Yeah.
this is a very cost-effective way, I think, to handle this, when you look at the whole picture.
Anybody else have anything on victim witness? All right, let's go to your budget, Clarissa.
My budget, if I recall, is generally the same. There are two main places where I am asking for additional funds. One is with our third attorney position, where I finally have an applicant, but they don't graduate until May, so they won't pass the bar hopefully until October. So that's still a ways off. And what I am contemplating is that in order to have the ability to hire someone, I may be coming to you at some point in the future and asking for additional funding for that position. And so, without knowing for sure, and it's budget time, I wanted to go ahead and include that funding in the fiscal year 26 budget, because I would rather be safe than sorry, essentially. And then the other big increase, and it is quite a significant increase, is farther down. We are, as you know, the sheriff's office uses Axon for their body-worn cameras. And as part of that, when they signed their initial contract, we, the Commonwealth Attorney's Office, also signed a contract. And at that time, we got what was called the Attorney Basic Package with some add-ons. And one of the add-ons was a terabyte of storage for us to upload other types of evidence. We are able to get up to like 1,000 minutes transcribed every year. We have access to a citizen portal where if you are the victim of a crime or a witness and you've got photographs or video, you can upload them from your device directly to Axon, so that we don't have to play the will it email, will it not email game. And we're also, of course, able to share all of that directly to defense attorneys. what started out as a question of how to get more transcription minutes, because we are having some challenges with making sure that everybody can hear and understand, and that can be easier if we're watching a body-worn camera video if they have a transcript in front of them. So our options were to either buy a new program just for transcription, and ensuring that it complied with all of the security and DCJS requirements, or seeing if we could just get more from Axon. Well, they came back and said, we don't know how you have this contract. You are not supposed to have any of these extra features. You are supposed to only be able to watch video and share video. You're not supposed to be able to redact and get transcripts and have the citizen portal. And I said, okay, great. How can I get those things? And their answer was that you need to upgrade to Justice Pro, and that would be a $5,000 initial fee, which my response was, we are already your customer. What are we, what is the onboarding necessary for? And I haven't gotten a satisfactory answer. That's kind of the bad news. There is a little bit of good news, which is that they initially quoted us $12,000 to $13,000 a year. Moving forward, we were able to say we don't have 10 attorneys. If we have 10 attorneys, it's not going to be hopefully for another 100, 150 years. Do you have anything designed for smaller offices? Half the offices in Virginia have 4 attorneys or less. And so they have developed a new level for 5 attorneys and fewer, and that's the one that they're moving forward on. It's about half the price of the 10 attorney level. In addition to keeping the features that we have now, we will also, the transcription side of things has dramatically increased, or improved, I guess would be a better way of saying it. They are able to transcribe not just in English, but in Spanish, and I think 3 other languages. And then they're able to translate that as well for us, which we are seeing more and more Hispanic defendants. That's been a little bit slow to come to Madison, especially when it's compared to Culpeper or any of our neighboring jurisdictions, quite frankly, but we are seeing that more and more. I was looking at video from over the weekend, and the first 2 cases I clicked both had Spanish-speaking defendants who didn't speak any English. So that will be very important going forward, especially as we're able to upload our jail calls and get those transcribed and translated as well. So that's the big ask that we have. We have tried hard to keep the other numbers as steady as possible. I think that there's a small increase in postal services just because the cost of the postal box is going up. The office supplies or books? Books and subscriptions went up $1,000. That's to reflect the actual number. I think we've still been giving back quite a bit to the county at the end of the year, so I think it kind of balances out on the whole. And then did we decrease one? No. So that's kind of where we are.
I have a question on the additional attorney, because we have the body-worn cameras? Is that was required by the contract? I might have missed that.
So, no, sorry. So the additional attorney, that language is in the budget, the state budget.
Okay.
It was a compromise because they did not want to provide I wasn't in the room when it happened, but my understanding is that the attitude was, we don't have body-worn camera for the state police. We're not giving you money for body-worn cameras because your locality chooses to have them.
Okay.
But they recognize that they're necessary, So they came up with this compromise of one attorney position for every 75 body-worn cameras issued. If they ever adopt the full staffing standards that have been suggested by the Virginia Association of Commonwealth Attorneys, that will likely go away because that will be taken into account with misdemeanor prosecution and those sorts of things. But
Clarissa, how long, with regard to the body cam video, what are the legal requirements for archiving? Is there a cutoff as to how far you have to keep, how long you have to keep the videos? Or?
So we are obligated to follow the Library of Congress's, the Library of Virginia's retention records requirements. And so they go with a very short length of time for traffic infractions and then a very long length of time for felony cases and felony charges. Our office's kind of informal policy is that, at least as far as paper files go, we are going to keep it as long as we have room for it. Especially, and then if someone has a serious felony conviction, especially if they're still incarcerated, we're not getting rid of anything, you know? And that has proved very helpful. We recently had a case where the sheriff's office was disposing of some evidence from a case that was 20, 30 years old. The court order was silent as to the disposition of these items, but we had a copy of the plea agreement that was signed by the defendant that clearly stated that they're able to dispose of them. So that's one of the reasons why we keep it. Right now, as far as the electronic evidence side, we have not run out of storage space with evidence.com. One of the things that we are doing for the items that we used to keep on the county server, and now that we've transitioned more to SharePoint, those really large ones we are downloading to hard drives and keeping them secure and separate. So they're still there, but they're not taking up space on a device somewhere that we would need. So there are rules. We don't necessarily abide by them because we would like to keep them longer than the retention requirements. No, absolutely.
Other questions for Clarissa? Clarissa, thank you.
Thank you, guys. I'm happy to answer any other questions. You know where to find me.
All right, Jamie Welks, come on down.
So I got a permit.
Welcome.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. Our budget is, way I see it, is pretty much the same yearly. I mean, there's not a lot of changes. Numbers fluctuate a little bit. A lot of the items, starting with the building department budget, a lot of them are based off the proposed COLA, so all those numbers are kind of generic, not generic, but automatically inscribed in. There's one item, you know, we have an agreement with one of our employees to obtain additional certifications, which greatly enhances our abilities and serves the community well for that low fee that we're proposing.
What else does he have to get, Jamie?
Let's see, he's got all the residential certifications, the residential plan review, he's even got E&S, so we have 2 E&S inspectors in the county. He completed commercial building inspector.
Yep.
He's scheduled, his next 3 classes are the trades, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, he's already scheduled for them.
Good.
And they're already, it's throughout this calendar year. I think next month he's going to, I forget which one of the trades, I can't even remember which one it is.
No, that was a good That was a good direction to go.
Let's see. I don't know if you have any specific questions about anything. I recall when we went through this, I believe, we're on the new Tyler system, so these tablets came into play. We had to have them. Of course, that means basically a phone number for airtime, so when we're out and about, we can record things and all. So there's probably a change in there related to that. The budget was kind of mixed between the two offices. They were kind of meshing them together, and in the end, it all worked out. It was well below, but we're trying to break it down between building and zoning sides, because there was a lot of the zoning, there was no budget item for advertising or for training, and which was a surprise to me. We got to have training budget for everybody, including zoning. Our new zoning administrator, he's got to go back to classes, take these courses, and finish his certification out. Just trying to think of anything. I don't really have anything special to report on unless you got questions about something. There's a letter in here we talked about, and I've talked with Jonathan, and one of our vehicles, it's aging out, and it's actually an extremely poor vehicle for what it's used for Joe and E&S. We've got an Escape with like no ground clearance, 7 years old. I mean, it's at the end. We're gonna need something. And, we looked at Eva, and, I mean, you can't touch Eva. It's the best. We don't even bother looking at other ones, because nobody can touch them for a vehicle replacement. And our plan was not to dispose of the old one, keep that as a backup, because we've had times when two vehicles are in the shop, and then we're greatly hampered. And our new zoning administrator, he's making a lot of site visits, so it's gonna assist him in making site visits as well. I don't like people going to sites representing the county in personal vehicles. It's a bad idea. And I think we should all have county vehicles when we go to a site. People know who we are.
Jerry Carpenter's gonna be disappointed.
I'll get over it. He's getting a splash pad.
There you go.
I don't know, it's not a whole lot. They look different because we broke them out more accurately for you, instead of having them kind of lumped together when they're actually two different departments. Well, not departments, two different functions in the department. Unless you have any specific questions.
Anybody have anything? Anything? It's pretty cut and dry on this
Yeah,
one.
this one's, it
Yeah.
doesn't fluctuate much. Saved you a bunch, the state saved us some, Books is a big fee usually, but, I think about 2 years ago, the state got I don't know how they worked it out, deal with the ICC, the code people. We have digital codes, all the codes are here, hundreds of them, almost 1,000 pushing them. And they're all electronic, and we got free subscriptions for like 6 years. I was planning on asking you for it anyway, but we don't have to worry about that for about 5 more years, instead of buying hard copy books. I mean, books are old school, and I'm an old guy, but I want electronic.
All right. What about zoning, Jamie? Anything to point out on that?
Nothing special. I mean, this is where I was telling you again how in the past they were taking some of the training fees from building and using them for zoning. We broke them out where
Much better.
it's more accurate. Okay, zoning
Great.
people, they gotta go to classes, training, gotta get recert hours, that's just required. So they're in here, and some of the line items might have been nothing before, because they were pulling them from the other department. Now we're filling them in and adjusting them to show, okay, this is what we anticipate. I just can't think of anything spectacular in here, unless there's an item you wanna.
Anybody got
Okay.
anything? Anybody on either one?
I think that just to
Please.
point out that the salaries and wages full-time, although it shows 10% increase, that's because last year's budget was based on the previous employee that was in that position. So just keep that in mind. We only added 3% COLA, but it is a difference between those positions.
I think certifications obtained within this last year are part of that 10%.
Yeah, I think in the zoning, you know, once he obtains the zoning, I can't remember, zoning administrator, I think that's what it is. There's an agreement with him for a salary increase.
All right. Are you gonna talk about Board of Zoning Appeals as well, and the Planning Commission?
If you have any question, I mean, it's, you know.
Anybody?
The BZA lately, it seems like we're having more meetings with that. The advertising thing is, you know, we gotta pay advertising. That's all there is to it. We do tend to have a lot more complaints are rolling in, so we have to, when zoning violations go out, they all gotta be certified. That's, the code requires that, or a local ordinance requires that. Building's different. Seems to be a little bit more complaints, so more fees, or trying to account for more fees for that. And it's hard to judge BZA in the future. You don't know what's gonna happen. There could be appeals or requests for variances, but there's no way to actually anticipate the exact number. We try and do the best we can, guess at it, but I'm gonna be honest, it's a guess.
Are those the complaints you're talking about, or are there other complaints that are common?
We don't actively search out complaints. That's not our policy. It's not what the county wants. We don't want to do it either. We have enough to do. But if we receive a complaint via email, call, we have to investigate. That we're required to. I mean, that's what we do. And so we will investigate. Sometimes it's something, sometimes not.
All right. All right, Planning Commission. Going down $1,000, it looks like.
I think we just looked at what we've been doing the last year or so, and
The only one,
we try to look at it and say, okay, this is more accurate. Maybe we think it is.
the only one I've got is how many laptops and all are we purchasing for them? Not laptops, but iPads or.
I think it's a
Where's
minimum
that
of 5,
going?
but if
Yeah.
those have devices already that may want to use them, then it'd be less. There may be monies already in play in FY '25 to cover that. So the only thing that would go in FY '26 is if there's any licensing or subscriptions, which Bruce should, or excuse me, Alan would capture that in the IT budget, so.
And in the long run, these tablets and devices are gonna save us.
Oh,
All the amount of paper,
right. All right, anybody have any questions for the 4 budgets that Jamie has gone through? Anything?
No, but I'll make a comment.
Please.
Jamie, thank you for what you're doing, running that department the way that you do. It's definitely turned around from where it's been a few years ago.
well, it's just not me, it's a team
Right.
effort, everybody. working
Well,
together.
leadership counts.
I appreciate that.
All right, anybody else? Thank you, Jamie.
Alrighty,
All right, you
I'm
texting Valerie? Let's, while we got a couple minutes here, y'all wanna go ahead and knock out the outside agencies? And it looks like, I understand Dustin asked Ms. Warren about discretionary versus kind of mandated. You did not check the library.
I didn't. I went from last year's.
Yeah, unless someone shows me different, I believe there's some statutory obligation based
It's
on
vague.
that formula that they use.
Yeah, it's real vague and shaky. And we probably do need to check, cause years ago, we were so far, we were not, I think it is incorrect to say that we are behind. That's not an accurate depiction. But we were contributing like 13K, and then it went to 11K, and now we're down to 10. I think last year she asked for less. We need to check with this Virginia State librarian, and try to figure out what the actual number is. All right, y'all want to start up at the top? Central Virginia Partnership for Economic Development, 10K. That's what we gave them last year, flat.
Yeah, my inclination is just a level funding except for the mandated areas where we have to honor the increases. That's where I'm starting from anyway.
No, I think that's pretty much, I agree.
Until we find out what we're gonna do as far as revenues and that.
I agree with you. I agree with you. It's basically flat all the way across the board. Does anybody see anything that they wanna pull out and go up or down or anything?
It looks like there's two new, three new on the list, just to point that out. That there wasn't anything approved last year for. One would be the Mad Cats, one would be Madison Free Clinic, and then Legal Aid Works.
Yeah, legal aid works 0. Everybody good on legal aid works 0? I think I can speak for Dustin and go with 0 on that one. I also think Mad Cats, 0. That's all that needs to be said. Dustin, you want to fund Mad Cats, their full request? No. All right, so we're in alignment. Madison Free Clinic, I can go back through my notes. Did they make any?
They didn't make a request last year, and I don't know if that's because they were in a transition year or not, but we did not, we looked in our files, we did not have a budget request from them last year.
Did they make comments that were earth-shattering?
I don't recall any earth-shattering
No,
comments.
yeah, I'm trying to.
Were they still going through COVID money last year, or
I don't think that's right.
I'm not aware if COVID money was helping subsidize some of their budget needs, but I just know that they did not send a request in.
I'm happy to bring up their application again if you'd like to look at it. Just let me know.
Who was the person that presented from,
It was the new I don't have it in front of me, the new director.
it was her and, was it her and Doreen Jenkins?
Doreen was here, I think, in support.
I think she's on that board.
Yes. I think she does some nursing
Yeah.
donation.
Does anybody, what do y'all want to do with the free clinic? Is anybody inclined?
Has it popped? It went back? Okay.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's, let's see how we shake out, and then we can start talking about revenue projections, and then if there's additional expendable income, then we could go down that path. So I think it's,
10,000.
Dustin, I ask everybody else, anything that's not contractually obligated, are you under the direction of flat fund?
I do have concerns about the early learning center. Are we
I agree.
gonna give them $10,000 again this year?
I think it's a little early to commit to 10 grand right now. If we're gonna, I'm not saying don't give them nothing, but
Well, I could comment on that since I'm on the Skyline Cap board and they are dealing with the early learning center situation.
okay.
And it's still basically up in the air where their future's going. I know that Skyline Cap has suggested some policy changes that would make their situation more sustainable in the long term. I don't think that, as of now, they are open to adopting those policy changes. What I'd like to do is probably, I think we should talk to Cardi a little bit more on this.
He's got to be careful just on the basis of being an employee of Skyline.
True. But as I said, that's where I'm coming from with that.
The word that we got on the Learning Center was they wanted to go up $5 a day per applicant or per customer. And then in turn, that would allow them to staff up to get to some type of level of equalized like balance essentially. But if they're not receptive to go down that pathway, especially with Simon and them emphasizing and pushing on it. And I'm sorry, I go down your path completely, Dustin. I'm sorry, it's a business is what it is.
Right, and the other thing that concerned me about the situation is that they have a large amount of money that is needed for capital improvements. Significant
Yeah,
amount
they've got a
of money.
roof and then they've got HVAC and don't.
Playground.
Yeah,
and-
there you
and
go. All right,
I
yeah.
just really think there needs to be they're gonna have to decide what they wanna do and what their mission is. And figure out how they're going to make that tenable for the long term. I'm not saying they don't provide a great service.
No, and childcare is certainly something that is needed in Madison, and emphasized to us on a regular basis, but
I mean, if we're trying to attract companies and businesses in, that's something that's one of the first things they look
I
at.
agree.
I think I'll talk to Simon if that's okay with you.
Yeah,
And kinda get some more clarification on that.
I think it's talk to Simon, but then I do, if they're not receptive to go down the path on increasing and trying to come up to, we know childcare is exceedingly expensive, but if they're not willing to kind of help themselves, then just continuing to throw money at something is challenging, especially with, I mean, we're doing the 10K. Years ago, the way that we did a catalyst when Doris was on the board, and I think we ended up giving them, was it 15 or 25, Jonathan?
For,
Years ago with Doris. It would have been 15, I
but
think.
for which the?
For our early learning
or
center.
I don't recall it maybe being more than 10.
We gave a bunch.
A lot of it, I think that was some seed money when it was being
That's correct.
reinstituted from Apple, whoever the whole property
That's
owner
right.
is, to who it is now.
That's right.
I'm not against them, I just wanna make sure it's sustainable before we just keep throwing money at it.
The argument,
But if
it's,
they're increasing the rates, then
that, if they're willing to go down the increased rates to help themselves, then,
Yes.
then I think the conversation is much different.
Right, because they haven't raised their rates in almost 2 years. And I mean, nobody likes to raise rates, but
Great. What about if we put them on as flat and we come back to them at the next meeting?
okay, and I'll try to follow up
Thank
with
you.
some additional clarification on
That'll work.
policy.
Anything else that stands out to anybody they wanna hit?
Okay.
All right. Valerie, come on up and tell us about DSS.
Good afternoon. I love to talk about what's happening at DSS. I guess the best news I have to you to jump to the chase is that the proposed Madison DSS budget is allowing for flat funding from last year. My total budget for the new year is $3,496,511 with a local share of $763,205. We continue to be implementing the policy and delivering services as directed by kind of the federal government and the state government, and are going after whatever special grants and other specialized funding opportunities that come our way. Receiving excellent reviews from both our federal and state partners on compliance, and really proud of an incredible staff getting the work done. We've had some vacancies in the past year, but have really kind of reorganized and restructured in such a way that I think service delivery has actually been improved. You know, not to steal Tiffany's thunder, but some of our program areas directly impact CSA, and in those areas, we have seen significant increases in our child protective services and foster care areas. Again, unavoidable as we implement kind of the protective measures that we're required to, and then have to provide services to those children and families as a result.
All right. Questions on DSS? Anything? Thank you, Valerie.
Thank you very much.
All right, Tiffany.
Come up and tell us about CSA.
We saved all our hard questions for you.
What a pleasure.
All right, good afternoon. So this year, I am requesting for my budget to increase. It is a little bit more significant than I've increased in the past few years. So as of right now, I'm requesting for a local match of $896,000 with a state match of $1,904,000. The reason that we are here is that, as I had discussed last month, is that we have had an increase in cases in that we are serving through CSA, including foster care numbers have increased, along with serving kids in the community for community-based services. As of right now, we have 38 children in foster care. 33 of them are foster care, and 5 of them are in the Fostering Futures program, which is where they're able to remain within the program at the age of 18 up until the age of 21. So we are still able to serve them with services past their 18th birthday. We have really been working with families in trying to have adoptions with some of these kids that have been in foster care for a little bit of time. We are trying to work with relatives through the KINGAP program, which is something through federal monies, and trying to get these kids out of foster care, along with a lot of prevention services that are keeping children within our community and educating parents and families that are through the CPS system. I also serve a lot of IEP kids, which by law I'm required to serve those children. And with those could be day placements through an educational program that is not served here in our local public system. They have to be served off-site. Those are costly educational programs, but it's the best way we're able to serve those children who need those specialty programs. As of today, in pulling the report, my new number that I'm serving is 55 children through the Children's Services Act, which is an increase from 2024, where I had served 35 children. And that is, of course, through different agencies such as DJJ, you have the schools, DSS, the Community Services Board. And then in 2023, I was served 41 children. The also kind of reflection as to the increase is because the price of services have increased significantly over the last 2 years. We were informed last year that there was probably going to at least be a 12% increase in a lot of the services. They're not just going up $5, they're going up $20. They're going up, it's not just a small jump, but also to the extent of services that some of these kids are needing, they're a little more lengthy, so it does cause the cost to be a little bit more for each child. But I have to say the work that is being done through our department is the best. We have a lot of good workers. I stay on top of what we're doing, and of course having a board member on my team to be able to justify what I'm doing and what our department is doing. I think we're serving our community the best that we can. And to justify here, I know the numbers are increasing, but unfortunately this is something that I can't fight against when it comes to our services increasing.
All right, get her. And I don't think there's a play. I mean, it's unfortunate, and I think we're exceedingly fortunate to have you and your staff and everybody working on this for Madison citizens. But there really is not a whole lot of plays here. You're talking about 32.7% increase, which is substantial. And then we have the equalization fund. What is the?
It's the Joint Services
Yeah.
Stabilization Fund. I was just having a sidebar conversation with Jennifer, and she can elaborate on it more, but that's calculated
Yes.
based on this, so we'll have to go back in and do some recalculating. Most likely, it'll take down some of your unassigned fund balance to assign it to that.
You got anything, Ms. Warren?
I'm working through that now, a fund balance slide to show the board on the new calculations and what they're going to look like, but that is correct. It will change.
I think we should know what that number is, and it is board policy that it's part of our financial policies. I mean, I wish there was something else we could do, but I mean, I don't see a whole lot on this one. I think it's just a part of living in civilized society.
Yeah, and I mean, we do have the promoting safe and stable monies that we get. That is the $18,000 every year, which we do our best in trying to use that monies to use, not using CSA, and of course, using Medicaid funded services at all that we can. But we do have some providers who are straight pay, unfortunately, for their service, so we're not able to utilize an insurance policy with some of our kids, but
Unfortunately, your number of kids' rates are going up, but what happens if they go down? Does the county get that money back, or how does that work?
oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so any unused balance would be returned to the county, and I know Jennifer, had spoken from last year about our return of money that we were able to, since we had a low number of kids that we were serving. And then unfortunately this year I had to come before the board for a supplemental.
Right.
So, which you just never know what each year is going to look like. But like I
We
said,
hope
we're-
it goes down, but that's not.
Oh, 100%, yeah, I mean,
But we have seen it go down
Yeah,
before.
the last 3 years it's
We
gone
have,
down.
it is one of the irregular ones that you do. You see a swing based on the client load that they're servicing. And you can see that money coming back, and it's not little dollars, it's potential for real money coming back. That's just kind of part of the flow of it.
The best way to describe it, explain it, I should say, is each month they draw down what they need based on the children that are in the program. And if children start to go out of the program, there'll be less drawn down each month, and there will be money left over that they don't use.
Okay. Sorry, I wasn't familiar with how that works.
yep, I understand that, thank you.
Anybody else have anything for Tiffany? No, sir. Tiffany, thank you.
Thank you,
Thank both of you. You guys do an amazing job.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
County needs you.
thank you, I appreciate that.
All right. Yes. Oh. $50 a ton, everybody got that? Thank you, Chuck. Is that on commercial and, wood debris? All right, there you go.
And I think some folks may actually also, Culpeper County sees some of their residents as well.
If they have the sticker now.
Yeah.
All right, good.
And it works.
Thank you, Chuck. All right, Greg Cave, come on down. Animal control.
Needs 8 new vehicles.
Yeah, that sounds about right. We knew you wanted to move back to the shelter. All right, animal control.
Really not that many changes. The biggest change is I am asking for a part-time position for animal control. I can go in details if you like regarding that.
Light details.
Okay. So it has been a 27% increase in calls in the last 4 years. I feel that is part of the new tethering law that came in effect in 2020. After speaking to other localities, they agree. And not only that, the increase of population in the county. Also, the increase of calls throughout the years, but also the number of on-call after hours. So after animal control has worked 8-hour shift, we're still on call for emergencies only. That can mean anything from aggressive dog, sick or injured, cows out, report of a dog bite, or request of law enforcement to take possession of a dog during a traffic stop. And I did put in your packet a survey of surrounding counties showing the amount of on-call after-hour responses. And Madison has the least number of employees, so that's one reason, due to the calls, I'm asking for a part-time person. And every agency has 3 or more except for Rappahannock County. But after speaking with Rappahannock County, they said sometimes they will go all week without an animal call. The sheriff's office is willing to help. They do assist in calls. The only difference here in Madison is if we get a call about a cow out, 2 o'clock in the morning, a deputy is dispatched, or deputies is dispatched. So is animal control. And it's just, I want to try to maintain the coverage of animal control in case something was to happen. Say Ian or I get trampled by a cow or horse during our job, then it doesn't leave the other one covering 24/7. Which I've experienced that throughout the years, and for example, Ian is at the academy right now for 3 weeks, so I'm covering 24/7 until he returns next week. I do feel this is a public safety, and I just like to have that coverage and not worry about, what if, which we recently experienced that a few months back when we had the last animal control officer resign, and we didn't have anyone to cover. I did get a pamphlet. I could pass that along if you like. But on October the 16th, 2023, there was a report by the Joint Legislative Audit Review Commission Board presented to the Governor and the General Assembly of Virginia. Part of their survey on page 10 report says animal control has one of the highest rates of workers' comp claims among public safety. Many injuries occur when restraining large or aggressive animals, dealing with an irate owner, or when their animals are being seized. We've been lucky.
How many times have you been bitten by a dog?
Me?
Yes.
0.
Ah, you have
I can't
a,
speak
see,
for
we've
that.
got a man with animals here. This is
But-
good. All right, I was expecting a lot more than
Our
that.
other officer,
He's not a mailman.
Our other officer was bitten first 2 months on the job.
But just one so far.
Correct.
Yeah, all right.
he runs fast.
Yep,
Yeah,
ah,
that's
Never push it.
I thought it was good. All right, all right.
So, and I've been trying to look at, to outline, the benefits. If you approve this job, this position, then this person not only help answer calls, they will help reduce the number of on-calls after hours. Maintain the county's coverage during an injury or other vacancy within the department. They help reduce the number of unpurchased dog tags that we try to work on throughout the year, but sometimes time does not permit. We get a letter from the Treasurer's Office every month, and we currently have 1,301 dogs that are currently without a lifetime tag. If we can work on this, and we have someone that can help work on this, then that's $13,010 that we could potentially revenue to the county. The primary role of this position would be for animal control. However, any downtime that could help facility maintenance, whether that's mowing, weed eating, or snow removal. I spoke to Mooney about this. He's in favor of it. He can also use the extra help. And also, between animal control and facilities, this will also reduce the number of overtime in both departments. That's why I'm more or less leaning towards the part-time than full-time position. Other items that have increased in my budget, of course, would be the testing services, because the individual would have to get their rabies vaccine. Training services, they'd have to go to the academy. We did increase fuel, oil, and vehicle equipment maintenance, and also uniforms, and that would cover uniforms in a new vest. Line items that we decreased was record books and tags, lodging and meals, office furniture, and equipment and other.
I have a quick question on this part-time person. If we're paying for all their training, they get all that, and will they jump ship as soon as would another agency would like to have them because they have all their training and not have those costs?
So I spoke to Mr. Weekly and Tilly as well about this in the past, and we try to get them to sign pretty much an agreement letter when they accept the position. I'd like for them to stay at least 2 years.
I don't know if you can enforce that. Tilly says we can enforce that.
You put it as in a acceptance letter.
Yeah.
They can choose not to accept it, but you can put it as a condition of hire. If they accept it, then it becomes binding.
Traditionally, those type of letters state that if you leave, you will reimburse through your last paycheck for a certain amount of things that the county may have paid for them. That's traditionally a lot of the way those letters are written.
Basically, your certifications, they're not back paying what they made at that, but like certifications or anything pertaining to equipment, things they may have, but. And if, part of the consideration, this is totally up to your call. When Greg and I talked about this, it's not only a need that he's looking for on-call, thank you very much. It's, okay, if they're not doing on-call, or you have, say, a day or two a week that they're heavy where it's he and Ian, what else can we do with the individual? And that's where the facility sides come in. We're kind of looking back at maybe operations that county did at one time, where when we had personnel at the transfer station, or we had personnel at the animal control. I think you've been on mowers before, where we just, hey, it's all Madison County needs, if you need to weed eat that day or whatever. So, but you have to have enough skin on the bone, if you will, with hours to make someone even want to apply for the part-time. So primary role, my understanding is, Greg, should the board consider this, because you always have to have a primary. So primary would be animal control, and then any remaining hours, facilities.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Anybody else got any questions for Greg on animal control?
What would the schedule look like for the part-time person?
We're
To
kind
help.
of back and forth, we've been discussing that, possibly Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we would alternate maybe Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I still have to get with Manny about that. Trying to look at maybe something, 24 hours a week plus on-call.
Okay.
So
Anybody else?
Possibility, it could be every other weekend, something like this.
And one thing to point out on the overtime line item, last year, the actuals were almost $28,000 in overtime. They're gonna end this year at around $30,000 in overtime without that person. So the budget of $18,570 is the projection of what would it be if we had the part-time person. So we're projecting it to go down from 30 to about 18.5. Just point that out. I don't know why FY '25 budget, we went down to 17, but we did, and that number we've overshot, so.
Anybody got anything else for Greg? Greg, thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Yes, sir. All right. Sean, come on down. Talk to us about emergency communications. Welcome.
Good afternoon. So with, this is really my first full year involved with the process. I jumped in right at the middle of it last year. I was able to go through the budget and eliminate a lot of small line items that either got consolidated into others or just not needed. One of those is the a part-time position. The way communications is in dispatchers, the training and certifications needed, it's hard to have a part-time person come in, especially when all the agencies in the area are dealing with staffing shortages. Luckily, right now, I just had a letter signed. I'm fully staffed today.
Good.
I had a previous employee came back.
Right.
So we're very pleased with that. Really, I just adjusted a lot
Sorry,
of.
can I ask you real quick, why was a previous employee coming back? Are we better than the other county or what?
I like to think so. It was the work level and pay that they were receiving at the other jurisdiction. She's taken a pay cut to come back, but she likes the people, the job, the county, the community. So that's one of the things I really wanted to try to instill in my employees is, kind of like a feeling of family. And, that they want to work here. So I was pleased with that. And it's a benefit because she's already trained. She's coming from another 911 center already, so she's not out of practice or anything like that. The other items were, as you discussed earlier, some of the increases are those contractual obligations that we already deal with and have. Everybody has gone up in their prices a little bit here and there. Also, some of them went up more substantially because either with new technologies being rolled into their service contracts where we have more options of using things, their contracts went up a little bit more. The center, we went to the next gen 911 with the state about 5 years ago. And in that 5 years, all the computers and equipment have been running 24/7 nonstop. And the dispatch chairs have been sat in 24/7 nonstop. So some of the ticket items I'm asking for really specifically is I need to start replacing these dispatch chairs. It's dispatcher comfort, health, their lower backs and everything. I like to kind of equivalent their dispatch chair to either a deputy's car, EMS's medic unit, that type. It's a functional piece of equipment for that person and their well-being. With the computers and monitors and mice and keyboards, I gave IT section our requirements, and they presented that in their budget. We do have a specialized equipment that's going to come upon expiration on their warranties and service contracts, and that's the call handling equipment. The state has presented a grant that I've applied for to help. They put a grant out to help PSAPs to start replacing this information, because a lot of PSAPs started changing 5 years ago. In 5 years, it's the end of life for a lot of these things. That's going to be most likely a capital expenditure, but I'm trying to get that grant. The grant is for $200,000. I've also applied for grants for my training for personnel and also GIS and data management. Those are constant grants that we get every year. We use that money to pay HERT profit for our GIS and things like that, but also training for my dispatchers and myself for that. All those grants are reimbursement style grants. That pretty much covers the main thing. We have our salary adjustment with the State Compensation Board. They've recommended a 3% and then a 6% on top of that, with apparently a one-time 1.5% salary bonus based on their current salaries right now.
All right, who has a question? I want to see these chairs.
Come on by.
I am, I'm going
I
to.
really
I'm not even.
The board, you all have a carte blanche to come up and stop by, because generally when someone shows up, the calls stop. It gets nice and relaxed.
That's the way I've
And,
noticed. Oh,
generally
no.
we're busy when you guys aren't around.
So I was in that business, and those prices are still pretty low compared to what they could be.
4 chairs, I was guesstimating about $10,000 for the 4 chairs.
Yeah.
And I got a quote back for 6.
Right, that's pretty good.
So I was pleased with that.
And we used to sell those to all the 911 centers and Pentagon and all those. And those chairs can be $2,500, $3,000 a piece.
And
So.
it's very, and they're the same chairs that we have right now, just replacing, getting new ones.
And it is a health thing too, so it's important if you want to keep them.
And I believe the center, I think they were purchased a few years ago, but it was purchased with COVID money. So
Correct.
we had the benefit of that last time, but we don't now, so.
We did have 5, we're only down to 4 now, because one did blow a piston out. And it's one of these things where you're fighting where it's after warranty, and how much money do you spend? Well, I have 4 dispatch positions. I have a cheesy office chair for myself. I don't need that extra chair. We are able to get by. With some of the things with the new chairs I would do is actually get better casters, rollers, like they have these rollerblade rollers that are better, easier on the floors, easier on carpet, things like that. Just try to make it easier across the board.
And they don't move, once you stand up, or you sit down, they stay in place, right? Or how's it work? When you stand up, they stay in place, the chairs.
No, they roll.
I thought they had a pressure thing on it. Maybe I was looking at the wrong chair.
Some of them do, but they're adjustable up and down, seats forward and back.
Yeah, the rollers, I mean, there's something where you sit down.
There are
and
some that
you
are
roll, and then you stand
that
up, they
cushion,
stay.
yeah, they're not that, yeah.
It's
they
very
pick up money
interesting.
elsewhere.
It's very interesting, the different things we learn in this job. All right. Anybody else? Thanks, Sean.
Thank you.
You have your choice. You had emergency management, you had the treasurer. Mr.
No,
Chairman.
treasurer's next. Sorry, Gavin. We know you've been sitting. I don't know. Miss Murray beat you in? Yeah. Well, come on down, Miss Murray. Yeah. Sorry, Gavin. I figured. Yeah, well, it better not be in your budget.
Our insurance offers that, so that's good to know. An 800 number if you want.
Yeah, good.
Okay. I really don't have much to say. My overall budget went up 2.2%. It's the best we can do.
That's pretty strong, Miss Murray. DSS is up 0%, but BZA went down, Planning Commission's down. You're the lowest of the day, though. Anything to highlight?
Not really. I mean, it's just the cost of doing business. The 3% COLA for the salaries and the 1.5% bonus based on fiscal year 25 wages that the comp board sent down. My budget's kind of boring.
It's okay. Anybody have questions for Miss Murray on her budget?
Okay. You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Miss Murray. All right, Gavin. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Sir.
This is gonna be real quick. We are, this budget is down 4% from last year, so I think I win now for the lowest.
Yes,
of the
that's,
day.
you're on it.
So, there's only a couple of little things here. The telecommunication line that you see there, you'll see that that's quite a bit higher than last year, but that is integrating in the new Starlink equipment in the service, really the service. For now, a lot of that's gonna be covered. I think Jennifer and I figured out probably till the first couple of months of next year. And then for the rest of that fiscal year, we'll have to fund it out of the emergency management budget. And that's for Brian's equipment as well as my equipment on that. Just kind of running down here, I don't think there's anything too significant. Most of them are lower than before.
How's the Starlink working for you?
What's that?
How is the Starlink working for
It
you
is
so
a
far?
game changer.
Good.
I can see a day, and I hope it becomes more economical. But what I can see for our ambulances on the EMS side, I would think law enforcement would have a great application for it as well. They work just like you're sitting in your office and your desk. You can make phone calls. You can get the information you need. It would have been a game changer when we had the fire and stuff. Not that we wouldn't still bring in satellite on wheels, cellular on wheels in that event, just to increase bandwidth and what have you. But to initially get going and get those things, it's a big deal. It's a really, really big deal. And I believe in the long run, it makes us more effective and efficient. So there's probably a savings there that we can't really enumerate. But that's pretty much it. On the seminars and tuitions, there are some things that I plan on doing this year that I've not traditionally done, but I am going to try to get to the emergency management conference this year. That requires you to be a member of that as well. It's not super expensive. I have to look at it, but so there'll be a charge for that. Not asking for anything big this year. I know it's a tight year. Next year I have some things in mind, but we'll build our case and hope the economy gets better by then and go from there.
Anybody have anything for Gavin? No, Gavin, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.
All right, moving right along. What does the health department have?
They're actually gone down. If, Ms. Warren, if you mind, just go ahead and bring
What?
that up.
Yeah. See, go ahead.
She just responded back. She's probably on the road. I just said if you happen to come early, please come on in. They have a time slot of 5:05. They had to reschedule from
last week. I believe they're overall down from last year. Is that correct?
Cool.
Can you show the, I think there's another view of their actual budget.
It is.
It's like $800 or something. I think I'm going off memory. Is that different?
Yeah, no,
Is
that's the
that-
one. That's a little more than 800, but not much.
So this is their overall.
Yeah, there's a local,
Yeah, so
portion.
on the sheet, last year, it is on here. 229,500, and this year is 228,641. So it went down $859.
Does anybody have any questions they want to talk to the health department about today? You want to make a phone call and see if she cancel her?
To reroute her?
Yeah, I just don't see any reason if she's coming from a long way. I apologize.
No, that's fine.
What was, 228,441 was last year, 229, what was the last of it, Ms. Warren?
229,500.
Thank you.
And I'm looking on this locality contribution for FY '25 revised, it's 22909. Trying to think of the history on that. I think, we have, usually there's some sort of, carryover that adjusts, I believe. Or something like that, but I'd have to look. But either way, the increase, I'm coming up with a decrease of $859 between the 2 years.
Okay. All right. Can you think of anything that we should be thinking about when it pertains to the health department and the budget?
I can't. I'm gonna see if I can find their formula, if they have that, if they have a formula they use. Don't know that they,
They do.
3.5. They're showing a change of 3.5% between the 2 years. But I'm gonna pull up.
See, the one, yeah, they're going from 22909 to 225, is what their sheet says, isn't that right?
Yeah, but I have, last year was approved at 229,500, however, the expense may only be the 220. There's something that usually gets pulled out, I'll have to pull up what that is, that it went from the approved budget down to 220. So, but last year it was approved at 229,500. So if we only paid 220,500, then it is an increase of 3.5%. But not from what was approved, just from what was paid. Yeah, this is the approved requests, not necessarily what was paid out. So this 229,500 was what was appropriated for them last year. And I'll have to see why it's now showing 220. I can look that up and see.
You get them, Jonathan?
Yes, they said if you had any questions, just let them know, but they will turn around and
All right.
enjoy the evening.
Let's get Ms. Warren to touch base with them, just to make sure that we have clarity on their numbers.
I do know it's 228.
And then where we can go from, and she'll get back to us. That is not a discretionary deal in any way. It's contractually obligated. We've got to fund them.
Carry forward or something like that.
I think we have flat funded them in the past, but
Mr. Chairman,
Please. Yes,
Jennifer
sir.
may have some new information.
all right.
Yeah, Jonathan just jarred my memory. They have a amount that gets carried forward every year.
If there's some remaining, they'll make a request and
Request.
carry it forward. And if it's such a small amount, if it helps offset next year's, we generally say, okay.
So it was like 8,000, I believe, or something like that. So that's why we ended up only with paying out 220, even though it was appropriated at 229. We had some carryover we could apply as a credit. And typically, we've seen that a couple years now.
It helps lower your next year's. If you would like that to come back here totally without administrative, we can do that. It's just trying to lower that next year's fiscal year request.
But the 228,641 is what they are requesting. That's their accurate request for this year, for FY '26.
At the planning commission level, I think they leave a little bit to be desired, as far as responsiveness on time. I know Jamie works with them and has a great, Jamie and that whole office staff down there, and they have great relationship with them. I think that's not a mischaracterization at all. Now I go in there pretty often just to get different septic drawings and things, and it is seemingly a better run than you would expect. I really don't have a whole lot of complaints about the health department right at the moment. Anybody got anything else? I think that's just kind of what it is. All right. Outside agencies were flat funding down through, no new request. We've run through the departments. Jonathan, you got anything else for us?
I'd just like to say next week, let me get my budget calendar. Some of you I may have spoken to either today or as of yesterday, but I'll say it all in front of the board now. April 3rd, I think, would be a great time at your next meeting to look at tax rates, to look at administrative fees. On your April the 8th public hearing, that was an advertisement already made for the real estate tax rate. And that will deal with your equalization process. I think it's important to go on the record yet again. I think I've said this last meeting. The state changed code, so there's boilerplate language in there. So in our advertisement, I think there was like 4 different paragraph sections that come from the state code. So you advertise what your equalized rate would be. So that's 49 cents per hundred. It was actually 49.0056 or something like that. So we won't advertise to the thousandth or something of a penny. But they also have in there a provision to, if you propose or would anticipate or wish to advertise any increase of rates, they would call that the effective rates. Well, we're behind with the reassessment. Our audit was a little late. We're getting some revenue and some state budget information later. So we did not have a proposed or effective rate. There are still things we need to talk to you about. It's also April 10th when Jennifer and I will have a kind of a rough draft, if you will, budget presentation for you all. So next week, we would like to cover with you where we're at currently. You know, you're making some adjustments today. We're going to go back and fine tune those numbers, but we'll come and we'll show you with no tax increase what the open appropriation balance would be with your capital and operations. And if, you know, I think it's fair, I'm not saying we recommend it this time. I think we need at least to discuss it because I'm going to have to advertise soon for April 22nd, regardless of what you do on the 8th of equalization, of what other increments of increases would look like as far as the real estate or any other rate you want to look at.
Next week, though, you're going to talk tax rates, personal property.
It'll be all your
rates,
tax rates
and
and
then admin
administrative fees.
Yeah, all right.
I'm only tracking 2, Mr. Chairman, right now. The department said they would like
Yeah.
to increase. I think one is the dog adoptions, and then the other is, as Mr. Frazier alluded to earlier, is consideration
Landfill.
on commercial hauling. So, yes, sir, I'd like to touch base on
Good.
those. Jennifer, is there anything else?
Just the Davenport report. I did talk to Davenport today at length. They are not going to be able to be here in person on the 3rd, but I'm meeting with them to go over final numbers and walk through the report so that I can then present it to the board. I'm not going to go into a lengthy detail, but I'll at least highlight things for the board and bring the report to you, so you have it.
And I think it may be fair to, let's take another final look at your CIP. I know departments, so you have a couple different items in CIP. You have a category kind of like, you know, your facilities. So we did go through that earlier. You know, I think I recommended the roof replacement at CID, and there are some other things that you could say yay and nay on. I think most of those were paving activities. A small item to plate the front of the concrete wall there in the tipping floor. That's getting a little rebar starting to show. I like to go through that again, and that has other things in there such as fleet. You talked about building and zoning today and so forth. So I like to get that finalized if possibly, and that would also include what I'm tracking on the school side. Yes, they have transmitted their capital. I would like to talk to you about their capital, and if we can get that fine-tuned, I would greatly appreciate it. And then that'll help us, after next week, that'll help Jennifer and I, or a combination of us, to do 2 things. We can get together and do, Kim and I can do the advertisement for all the proposed tax rates. Again, those are proposed. You have a public hearing. You can do up to or less, whatever you decide on the 22nd. And it would also help us on the, moving forward to April 10th meeting to put together that final budget presentation based on those revisions of outside agencies or capital or anything you want to cover in operational. Mr. Chairman, if you want any revisions on operation side, we can give that to you as well.
So you're thinking April 10th, you're going to do a administrative budget?
Yes, sir.
There you go. Does everybody have the list or the document that has CIP from both the school and the county? All right, that, I just want to make sure.
I
do think that's a great
How about
one
we
to go back
recirculate
through.
that,
Yeah,
Mr.
I
Chairman,
agree.
in an email of this, at the end of
Great.
this week, so you have that to be thinking about in advance.
Good. I agree with that. Anybody else got anything?
I have a question for Ms. Warren. And I'm
Please.
biting my tongue asking this, but what was the initial figure, dollar figure on each cent increase in property taxes? Wasn't it like 180,000 or something?
It was
Oh,
one,
each penny
Each
increase, 208, well, with the new rate, 280,000.
So are you talking
280.
real
yeah,
estate
no,
or
it
So
was,
they
personal
jumped
property?
quite
it
a
was
bit.
183 previously, and now it is 280.
280,
Okay.
for real estate.
Yeah.
That's real estate,
Real estate.
yes.
And then on, what was it, personal
He gave us a
property?
10-cent
Yeah.
increment for personal property of 150,000.
Okay, I remember that one.
280 for the new real estate rate.
I'm
Oh,
doing
man,
some
and-
models that are disturbing, but they have to be done.
Yeah, and I may be ahead of myself. Jennifer, correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, we're looking at where you're at right now, and I think Mr. Jewett and Mr. Buchanan, when you gave the economic development report or plan report, it had where we've been tracking in the last couple of years, revenues and expenditures. And if I'm going off memory here, I think it's about a 4.5% on revenues year to year, about 4.95%, almost 5% on expenditures. Where we're at right now, I believe we're looking at a on the revenue side, I think we're tracking right now about a 1.5% of increase on the FY '26. You're looking at almost 9%. That number is actually higher than I spoke to you earlier. I thought we were near 8, so it's about 8.9 before any slicing and dicing that we're talking about here today or next week of expenditures. That is not a formula for success. So we definitely want to bring back some revisions, and you can see why we're going to show you no increase, open appropriation balance, and some other, probably real estate. We'll have a sheet for you to look at that, and then you all tell us what you think you would like to see.
Yeah, on the OpEx side, that's like this is sheet showing what, 2.3 million roughly in increases?
On the capital side, I think it's at least, 3 million?
The schools are 2.2 in the county. It comes out to right about 3.2, I believe, 3.1 or 3.2 for capital.
And on the operating side, we're just under 3. What are we, about 4.5 or 5 million right now of?
Opening balance appropriation?
Yes.
Yeah, 5 million.
So you can see why we need to talk next week, do some trimming, CIP, operations, and that way we can shape our discussions on April 10th, plus
But
our
the
advertising.
5 is in between the CIP and the operation, yes, ma'am.
Yes.
I just wanna make-
Yeah, 3.2 of it, I think, represents CIP.
It represents all the funds, CSA, DSS, every fund.
Things to look forward to.
And we'll give you a highlight, whether it's on the 3rd or the 10th. I mean, I can speak from some of it right now. If you think about where we're starting, our radio maintenance contract is kicking in this year. That's almost $300K. You've got an SRO position that the state's taken off the board from grant funding, so you're fully funding that. You've got the reduction in student aid based on reduction in student population for the schools. We believe our building permit number, revenue number is a real number now. We've gone back and looked at that. You can have an increase of building permits, but if they're decks, they're not new homes. And that's a trend down of probably half in what we projected. So if there's loss of revenue and both whether it's being covered by the state or contractual agreements we have. So that already puts you at not a very good point,
The,
starting
oth-
point.
the other thing that's added to the budget, the operating side, is assuming leasing some of the larger pieces of equipment that EMS, instead of purchase. We did add those in as leases, just to see the effect on the operating budget. And that's a part of that 5 million.
All right, anybody else got anything? All right, public comment. Public comment. Ugh. $5 million, good lord. All right, no more public comment, no closed session, what would y'all like to do?
Move to adjourn or second or something.
Second.
Motion made and seconded, further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank y'all.